overview, I'm going to be covering the CRM Pro 6.0 application. Now, this is a diversion from prior versions of our CRMs, where CRM 5 and 4 and after below that did not allow a lot of the navigation and features that are in this new 6.0 version. For example, in the calendar, which is this location area that we're in right now, when you're using the calendar, it can be used as a calendar for appointments, and in the same way, it can be used like a Gantt chart where you can schedule events on a daily basis for one or more people or entities. In other words, if I click on this right here, I've got 3 current entities. It could be a project manager and a person's name and administrator. There can be any number of entities in there that are individuals or individual entities where you can set appointments, and when you pick them from the list, you're looking at the calendar events and schedule for that particular thing. Like if I go to the project manager, you'll note that it changes, and the area and information over here in the expired notes has changed. And as you see, if I go back to the administrator, they return. So these are individual calendars. If you consider that you can put an event of some sort or any kind of a task in the line as an appointment, that particular event is like one line of a Gantt chart, and the progress of that is set by the date range, the start and due dates, and the title of the item, and who it's actually assigned to. Now you can assign to the person that's currently shown, or you can take anybody out of the list and add them into that particular event or task and add them to that particular line item for their calendar. Now, one of the things I want to point out, I was talking about navigation. If you do an appointment, like you start a new appointment and it pops up this screen, the main change on this screen today is that if you go to a person who is a client or somebody that you're proposing to, you would click on this and pick that particular person. And as you pick them, what it's going to do is it's going to drop in the information on the next event calendar. And I'll just put in there a test just so we can see what it does. I'm going to put a test. You put the date range and time ranges. This can be one day or a linear number of days in here. So let's go back to the screen, and you'll see that it added that event in there. And in this case, it called it an event, and that was set in the screen. There is now in this version a status where you can pick whatever kind of status that you want to put into that particular line on the screen. And you can also put in a conditional priority as far as, is it a priority 1 through 5? And if you want to change any of these statuses, you click the status bar and it brings up a different screen where you can add or change these in there. Now, where this becomes like a Gantt chart in that you can assemble tasks or any of these line items or add your own as you edit this to make your app unique to your company. So what it does is it takes every line item you add and then adds a status for that particular item. That's probably the first and most notable changes in the calendar. You can also show completed on each event, where if you complete it, it draws a line through the actual task title so that you know it's completed. If you not complete it, it will end up in the, if it passes the appointed day or concludes without being done, you'll see that it'll add it to this line where appointments are not completed. And as you create new things like I did on the 24th of June, it's going to also put in a calendar event and an underline in it telling you that there is an event on there. And if you click away from this and then click back, you can see it brings up the events for that date. Now, one of the primary things that I've done in this app that changes it, if you click on it, it now, if I bring it up here, it'll show the initial one you set up the appointment, but now it shows all the current proposal or RFQs that you're working on for this particular client. If you're looking at the client name that's pointed in here, it should match whatever project that you're working on. Now, what's really interesting about the way that this one works now is you can sit and edit it right here, and it will edit into the client record to make changes on any one of the proposal tasks in here. Each one of these is an individual proposal or RFQ that is set up for this particular client. Now, when you go to the client screen, you're going to see this data, and if you edit it there, it's going to update it on this screen. So there's a lot more cross information within the app to keep it running as far as updating information. Now, one of the newest things that I've done here is I've made it the navigation to get around the application much easier. With this new pop-up menu, you have all the screens in the application, and you can navigate to any one of them from any screen in the application. So, for example, if we concluded the business that we're doing here on the calendar, we can jump right to the customer screen and make a modification there. So as I bring up the customer screen, the primary change here is you can pop right back to the calendar. You can also go up to the pop-up menu in this and change screens. And you can also note that these items are similar to the 5.0 version. They have not changed that much, but there's a new element in all this area over here. And let me explain what that is. In the prior version, we were actually assembling information for a proposal track, which is this information that you saw in the calendar. And it went from there to actually working the proposal and delivery, and then all the aspects of tracking the proposal, labor and materials and all that stuff on the next screen. Well, it occurred to me that we are doing that, and that's okay, but what happens is in the pre-proposal structure of an application or whatever, it should provide you the opportunity to take on, say, for example, request for proposal, and then work all that element here before you actually promote it up to a full project task that you're going to go forward on. So this is pre-bid, pre-RFQ information and setup. And these screens now are very unique in that when you click on the icon over here, as far as the button is concerned, it will bring up the pre-bid project where you start it and you start putting the information in. Now here's where it gets interesting. If you create a bid title, that bid title could change to a new bid title, and you can add as many bid titles as you want within the application, because as you scroll this, you can create a new one for this client for a pre-proposal bid title. And all the following information in these particular pop-ups has their own portal screen where you can then go in and look at the actual portal data and read it in that screen. Or you can pop back to the calendar, or you can pop back to the calendar customer and find the information that was up here. Now this part includes the pre-bid project information, a place to put photos. If you, in some cases, some companies may have a construction situation that they're doing and they want to keep track of all the photos of the pre-construction or the bid information. For example, if they go out and do a site inspection and they want pictures of the site. And this could also be for, say, a product that you're creating. You could keep created product transition images as you're actually doing drawings and designs. You can even put a drawing in here if you want to. And when you pop this up, you get a larger view of the actual drawing or image that you want in that particular area. You can go back to the customer screen again. Now in this case, there's a site inspection where you actually have the contacts, the inspection type, the inspected by, the inspected items, and the inspection findings. Now, for those of you who have not done this kind of thing before, this is where, say, in a construction trade or in a building trade or a product that you're building, you're doing a pre-inspection where this product's going to be put and all the items that are along the path of when you're actually doing the development, where you can have it pre-inspections and post-inspections of all the items with either in your own engineering group or somebody that is building a product for you that you're going to view and inspect the product and keep notes about that. And this may be something that is still pre-proposal and you're looking at the element that you're going to be using or the product or the construction site to make sure that your bid meets your requirements, as far as make sure that you have all the data related to the analysis of the pre-proposal. A schedule. The schedule is used in the same factor where you schedule all the events and things that you're doing in the pre-proposal. This could be sales, marketing, and your production group that are reviewing all the things that have to get done in the pre-proposal in order to make sure that they're scheduled and accomplished as desired. The next one is correspondence. If you're doing correspondence with either the person that you're bidding for or you're bidding to, you put the information in there as far as the request for a quote letter and correspondence goals, correspondence results, and correspondent action items that are being created. And keep in mind, this is all pre-proposal information. Then there's the document tracking. If you send documents back and forth, there's all the tracking, revisions controls, the document results, and the document purpose, and the location of any copies of this, including prior versions, so you do not lose control over your revision control. The next one is the vendor selection. If you're going out to vendors and you're looking at having them bid on product or product type things that you're planning to bid a new project on, you can pre-bid that and send the requirements and everything to them based on the information here. And as within all the other pre-bid stuff, you can do as many of those as vendors as you need to and track all that information. And recall, you still have a portal in here. You can show all this information, and in this case, you have a vendor selected yes or no, and you can state in the pre-bid stuff whether and why you picked this particular vendor, either based on price or technical ability or past history. So all this now is pre-bid stuff. Now with the project itself, when you're doing the project, if you click on the icon, and what you're doing here is you're basically starting the project process if you're going to bid it. If you're going to do a no bid, you can put it in there as a historical and show that you started to bid it, you did the pre-bid proposal information, and decided not to bid it because it's either too technical or it's outside the realm of your effort. So with that being said, you would do a non-bid on that particular proposal. If you now go to the next one, and yes, you're going to bid for this particular client up here, then you would start doing things like activity track, which is current and explained in this little data here. You can set up your meetings as far as their actual proposal construction and working with the company to do the RFQ in the proper way. And then you can do action items in here. As before, these all have screens where you can actually have mailable, emailable screens that you can send out to people, or you can print these, hand them out at meetings if you want to, and have the information that you want to put out to your individuals at the meetings. Now, if you go back up here, like I said before, you can navigate anywhere you want to. I can go to the customer contact screen, which is the individual contact information for the people that are shown in the customer screen. So if I go back, I'm jumping around very quickly. These are related contacts within the company. This is the primary contact. So you can have any number of contacts within the company. Clicking on the button at the end of the row will take you to that particular contact's information. Now, I could jump over here and show you the proposal itself. If I go into the proposal, and you can see all the proposals that are being bid on, no matter who the client is. And then if you click on that, it will switch to that particular screen and show you that particular proposal that you're working on. And this would be all proposals that are now currently in work. Now, if you go up to the tabs above, this is the breakdown of all the information that as you're going through, like the WBS, to do your quotes appropriately for each element of a proposal, and then breakdown structure as far as each thing, like if you do a 1.0 element, a 1.1, 1.2, and then 2.0 and so forth, these could be costed individually so that if you do not get a part of the contract and you get other parts, the client can offer you that particular portion of it based on your costing that you did as far as your estimate within the WBS breakdown. Now, if you have questions about these things and how they work in here, I suggest that you get back to me and I can explain these in detail. For example, there is the project budgeting and how that works. Now, this is very similar to the 5.0 version with some little changes in it. And for example, what I've done here is I put the requirements list within the proposal area, which is a new element. And what this does is it allows you at any one time to see all the requirements that are set up based on your proposal that you sent to your client, or the one that you're receiving from somebody who's doing work for you, to look at each element to make sure that you're on track and that you've covered all the items that are in the requirement listing. And this is available on each one of the screens within the WBS and so forth. For example, the requirement list is here, and as you pass through each element of the actual project and you're working on it, you can jump up and look at the requirement status and the value and the total of cost to date that shows what you're actually applying to that particular project. So this gives you a much clearer and individual breakdown as you're working each element of the project to see what you have to do. And there's also a pop-up notes area in here that when you have a record or information here, it will pop up and allow you to add notes to this particular element within the requirements checklist. So there's a lot of things, and you can delete items from the checklist if they're not pertaining to something you're actually going to perform. So this gives you the ability within any one project to add and delete items on the fly and allow you to modify your contract to add new requirements to it as contract revisions and so forth, so that you have the status of each item and all the items that are in the current requirements checklist. For people that have done a lot of proposals or companies that write proposals, this is a real valuable item as far as keeping on track with all the requirements in the proposal. There are also charts in the project elements where it breaks down all the items and runs the total cost to date as far as what actually is in the project as far as your costs are concerned. Now to go back to the proposal, you would jump over here and go back to proposal task. You can see I can navigate very, very quickly. Now to see how all this ties back to the calendar, when you go back to the calendar and you're doing anything that's related to a scheduled event or task, and you want to see it all in one place as you're doing it, whether it be the pre-proposal or the actual proposal or the production, you can set up the individual people that we talked about or event entities and have the ability to track all those on a running calendar database. You can either do it by week, month, and year, and that relates to all the events that are going through as far as proposal and managing your data within a calendar type of a situation. So this is very helpful from the standpoint of keeping track of all the elements. Now, obviously, this is a very fast overview, but it should give you a pretty good idea of how this application can answer a lot of the demands that have not been addressed in past applications from anybody. The main point of this overview is also to indicate to you that any element or any process that you see within this application can be updated or upgraded to meet additional requirements that you may have. For example, if you want to extend some way to do quality checks and you have your own particular way to do it, those can be incorporated into this application. Keep in mind, this is the base app, and the base app allows you to update and modify. If you have questions about how to do that, what we would do is present you with this overview with the basic application, and then you can ask questions to see where we would go from this point forward as far as adding, updating, and new capabilities as required. Thank you.